So when I look around at this country, I see left-wing Antifa and BLM rioters burning cities to the ground. But according to the media and Democrats and even the FBI and DHS, that's largely a figment of my imagination because right-wing terror is supposedly a much bigger threat. So what are your response to those claims?
They're hogwash. They're absolute bunk. So, look, I just released a study under the auspices of Americans for Intelligence Reform, which demonstrates that since the beginning of the Obama administration, the deep state bureaucrats have been using your taxpayer dollars and those of your viewers to create a database which is packed with lies about Islamic terror, left-wing extremism, and right-wing extremism, very much apparently intended to diminish Islamic terrorism and left-wing terrorism and amplify what they can of right-wing terror. So the question is, who are you going to believe, them or your own eyes?
Yeah, and I like to say that numbers don't lie, but people lie, and statistics can be easily manipulated. You can give the same data set to 5 different research groups and get 5 different answers from that same data. So it's all about how you look at it. So breaking down your study a little bit, you go into some details about how, for example, race can be manipulated. So in order to play down threats such as Islamic Jihad and then prop up white supremacists.
Right. So one of the most stark examples in this study is that in the taxpayer-funded database, they have listed all 19 of the 9/11 terrorists as white Caucasian. Now, let's be clear, this is not a mistake because each of those 19 terrorists lists accurately their country of origin. Most of those countries of origin are Saudi Arabia, Arabia, right? And one of the options in the database is Arab. And yet all 19 are labeled white Caucasian. There are lies, there are damn lies, and there is TVIS, this database.
And so when it comes to, for example, Antifa, because we see them in the streets since the end of May, early June, it's been many, many months now. You see them burning down, especially Portland and Seattle. And are they even being counted as left-wing terror, left-wing violence? For example, what comes to my mind is just, I believe it was last month, in which a Patriot Prayer member, I believe his name was Aaron Danielson, Jay was his nickname, he was shot. He was executed in the streets for his conservative beliefs by a man who was a self-proclaimed Antifa militant who said war was coming and that he was ready to die for this alleged war. Do situations like this go down as left-wing terror?
Apparently not. So this database doesn't even mention Antifa, in spite of the fact that the Obama administration's Department of Homeland Security said, and I'm using their words, not mine, that their activities, Antifa's activities, were quote unquote domestic terrorism. So you have, right, DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, is funding a database. At the same time, they're saying internally that they consider Antifa a domestic terrorist organization, in effect. They're funding a database which doesn't even mention it. It's so convenient. Apparently, it's been wiped away. It's not a problem.
This is absolutely crazy. So I want to get your take real fast on the age-old question. So by body count and by number of attacks, left versus right, which side of the aisle is driving the violence that we see in the streets?
Well, that really depends on how you define it and about how far you look back. I mean, let's acknowledge that in 1995, Timothy McVeigh killed 680 people at the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, which was a disgusting and horrifying attack. And he was an anti-government conspiracy theorist. Those guys are evil. That was an evil, awful, disgusting attack. I would say, though, that he's not remotely conservative. He was, in my judgment, a nut job. On the other hand, on 9/11, you had 3,000 people die, and that's an act of Islamic terror. And the question is that left wing or right wing? Well, in my judgment, the left wing has been pretty obvious since 9/11 which side they're on. And the further left you go, the more in favor of Islamic Jihad they are. And that's just a fact. And therefore, I would tend to say that we should probably lump it on that side. And boy, if that's the case, there's no comparison.